Mm-hmm.
Jamie Harris, winner of the New Scholar section of the Wynn Thomas Prize 2015. Congratulations on your prize.
Thank you.
I have to say, I was one of the judges, and I also peer reviewed it for the journal, which cuts down on your readership slightly. But I was stunned because you brought a whole new approach to an author that we think of as familiar, as a fixture on the literary landscape, because you talked about Iain Sinclair as a Welsh writer.
Yeah.
What drew you to him and to your approach?
A number of things, really. I mean, I think one of the things you strive for, certainly as a kind of PhD researcher, is to write about someone. In the first part, you want to write about people that you like, or that you might be kind of familiar with, or that has a large body of work that can be delved into. I was quite surprised with Iain Sinclair because the first book I read was a number of years ago, which was Landor's Tower, which is his Welsh book. And it says quite clearly on the back, Iain Sinclair, born in Wales. And it was only kind of subsequently that I realised that itself was a bit of a novelty. And that was the only kind of typically Welsh book that he'd written. And largely he hadn't kind of dealt with Wales, and largely he hadn't really been considered in a Welsh context before. So I thought that in itself was worthy of remark, even if regardless of the content of the book, I thought that the actual that mere fact of his biography was.
That was really striking, and it kind of pointed out to everybody that there is a Sinclair-shaped hole in Welsh studies. And you're really the first person to get there.
Yeah, and I think it was a question of, it was a race to the finish line in the end. I mean, there was, I begin the article with a nomination for Sinclair's Downriver as one of the greatest Welsh novels. It was something that the Wales Arts Review ran. And I remember that nomination coming out 2 weeks after I'd actually started work on the chapter after I'd finished the previous one. And I thought, no, they've got there first. But it turned out that the nomination was based on factors largely other than the things I considered important about Sinclair's work.
What a relief. You said Landor's Tower is a typically Welsh novel. It's set in Wales and there are Welsh characters, especially with Kilvert, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And frequently kind of Welsh kind of characters. Sorry.
So what's typically Welsh about it in the way that you read it?
Well, isn't that strange? I said typically Welsh, and I suppose I don't mean typically Welsh. I mean, I know Russell Cullen-Jones kind of reviewed it and said it's, like Hunter S. Thompson kind of speeding through Wales, and there's nothing typically Welsh about, saying that someone writes like Hunter S. I think it plays on the idea of what a Welsh book is. The idea of doing a Welsh book as if you can just do that. And so Sinclair's very aware, and there's a heightened sense of kind of self-parody in it, because he's quite aware that that's what he's doing, self-consciously doing a Welsh book. As a Welshman, that shouldn't be so remarkable, but it is.
I think you've really hit it though, because there is a sense, and other people have been talking at today's conference about the sheer weight of authors, that there isn't a spot in Wales that isn't a literary spot too. And that there you've got Sinclair, who is the master of resurrecting the memories of areas, landscapes, plots, sections of land. And I wonder if that is a typically Welsh thing to do. And actually psychogeography originated in the Welsh literary consciousness.
That, I think, that was one of the earliest instances of, thinking about Sinclair in a Welsh context. And obviously with Sinclair, you think about words like psychogeography. And then there was a book, Merlin Coverley's book, Psychogeography, makes quite a clear case for Arthur Machen as a proto-psychogeographer, as one of the fathers of the movement. Sinclair is deeply influenced by Machen. His only kind of Wales published work recently has been an essay, which was a transcription of a lecture on Machen. And I think that, if you look at Cowper Powys as well...
Oh, absolutely.
There is a real tradition, and it ties into the kind of, the for Wales read landscape thing, or for Wales see landscape, the idea of landscape being intrinsic to some facet of Welsh literature or Welsh literary consciousness, and Sinclair simply takes his psychogeographical approach and brings it home. I think it brings it back to perhaps where it should be.
I think that's beautifully put, actually. Yeah. You're in contact with him. How's that experience been, and how does he think of him? Does he think of himself as a Welsh author at the moment?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was quite unusual to be in touch with an author. I don't think I necessarily expected it, but because of the archival research, it necessitated contact for permissions and whatnot. He never identifies himself as an English author, as many people do. He often, when you read biographies, they say British author. In fact, there are quite a few instances of himself referring to himself as a Welsh author. But again, he's engaging in some kind of play there. He's consistently aware of the kind of multiple Sinclairs that emerge, depending on the audience.
Yes, he's absolutely one of the most self-conscious and playful authors on the scene, which it's tempting to say is part of his Welsh literary heritage.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on the prize.
Thank you.
We hope you publish in our journal a lot more, but also widely, because I think you've opened up a rich new theme of criticism, and we look forward to more work. So, Jamie Harris, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.